Hi everyone and welcome back to our channel. I'm Anne from the Sussex Handmade Soap Company, and today I'm going to be showing you how we make our rose clay and argan salt bar. This is actually the second video we have done on salt bar making, so if you want to know a little bit more about what a salt bar is, what qualities it has, why we use the oils that we use in it, and superfatting, then check out our video here on our green clay and avocado salt bar, because we just go a little bit more in depth in that one into why certain oils are used and the quantities of things like coconut oil and sea salt and unmolding. We go into all of that in just a little bit more depth, so if you're unsure then I would recommend checking out that video first. So I've laid out all the ingredients that we're going to need for today's recipe, and I've popped the recipe down in the description, and I've also put two links in the description, one for the USA and one for the UK, and that will take you to our Amazon storefront page where you can purchase all of the ingredients that you will need to make this soap, with the exception of the lye that you can pick up at a general hardware store like a B&Q or a Wickes. And if you do that, just make sure that it is 100% pure lye and that it hasn't had any additives added into it, and then you'll be good to go. You may also notice, if you do click on our links, that we have actually also popped a link for a geranium essential oil. The reason for that is that we are actually using rose geranium essential oil in today's recipe, but this is a very expensive oil. Geranium is slightly cheaper. If you don't wish to use geranium or rose geranium, you can substitute the essential oil in this recipe for an essential oil of your choice. That is completely up to you. So let's run through quickly what we have got here today. We have got 450 grams of fine sea salt. We have got argan oil. We will be using 90 grams of refined argan oil. We have got 810 grams of refined coconut oil. We have got 20 grams of coarse Himalayan salts. You can leave this out if you want to. This is an optional ingredient. We have got 28 grams of rose clay and the rose geranium that I mentioned earlier, and we'll be using 42 grams of rose geranium essential oil. The last ingredient is the water and the lye, which we have 256 grams of water and 128 grams of lye. And we have got the individual cavity mould, which is what we will be making our soaps in today. So the very first thing that we are going to do today, before we even get down to any of the actual soap making, is to take our pink Himalayan salt, and we are just going to sprinkle a little bit of the salt into each individual cavity in our mould. And you're only taking a small pinch of salt and just kind of dropping it and letting it fall into the base of the mould. And if you don't want to add this Himalayan salt into your moulds, then that is absolutely fine. This is an optional ingredient. If you have got especially sensitive skin, then you can leave it out, because this is coarse salt, so there is the potential for it to be slightly scratchy on your skin. If you don't want that, then just leave it out. But I like to add it in because it gives a really nice aesthetic look to the final soaps. Now I'm just going to put this to one side and we're going to begin the actual soap making. So we are just gently melting down our coconut oil now. We are doing this over a very low heat because we don't want it to get too hot. And when the coconut oil has almost all melted, we are actually just turning off the heat and just allowing the residual heat to actually melt away the rest of the oil. So now we have melted down our coconut oil, we are going to add in 90 grams of refined argan oil. And as I've said before, if you are a little bit concerned about weighing your argan oil directly into your melted coconut oil, you can weigh it into a separate glass or jug and then pour it once it has been weighed into the pan. Now, because soaps with coconut oil, or a lot of coconut oil, can be prone to overheating and cracking, we want our temperature to be below 90 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm sure we are, but I'm just going to check. Yeah, we are at 84 degrees Fahrenheit with our oils, which is perfect. So we're pulling our lye and test the temperature on that now too. So just testing my lye temperature. I am at 85 Fahrenheit. I don't know if you can see that, but that is what I am at. So that is perfect too. Before we add the lye into the oils though, we are going to add in our rose clay. So the reason we are adding our rose clay in first is just so that it disperses nicely in the oil and we don't end up with any kind of lumpy clay bits in our final soap. I find it a lot easier to actually blend the clays into the oils before we add the lye, I say just to make sure they're really nicely dispersed. Now that the clay is dispersed, I'm going in with our lye water. And then we are going to use our stick blender to bring this mixture to a light trace. So now I'm at a light trace, I'm pouring in our Rose Geranium essential oil, and remember you can substitute this for another essential oil if you wish to. If you do that, just make sure to check the safe usage rates for the essential oil that you have chosen to substitute with, as safe essential oil usage rates can vary dramatically from essential oil to essential oil. Now we're going to bring this to a medium trace. So now we are at a medium kind of trace. We are going to go in with our sea salt. This will most probably bubble and produce air bubbles as the sea salt goes in. That is not a problem. We're just going to mix it in really well to make sure that the sea salt is nicely incorporated. And I'm not sure if I mentioned earlier on in the video, but you do need to make sure that you are getting salt that hasn't had an anti-caking agent added into it. You want completely pure salt. Sometimes the anti-caking agents and things like that can actually affect the final soap. It might set up incorrectly, it might not be firm enough, it might be a bit gloopy, so do go for salt that hasn't had any kind of additives or anti-caking agents popped into it. So now it is ready to pour into the mould, but just to make it that bit easier for me, I'm going to transfer it into a jug with a spout because it just makes it so much easier when it comes to pouring into the mould. So we've pulled our mould back in now, and if you are actually creating your soaps in cavity moulds as well and you're working on a work surface, do pop your moulds on a tray because you're going to need to kind of tap them down to release air bubbles, and if you don't put them on any kind of tray, you're going to be stuck with them sat on your work surface until they are ready to unturn. So they might just be in the way. So pop them on a tray and then you can move them wherever you want to. Right, let's get these soaps poured. And there is something incredibly satisfying about pouring into individual cavity moulds like this. Just watching them fill up and seeing that soap flowing down, filling the moulds. You could make this in a loaf mould if you wanted to, but it will be harder in terms of the cutting. And if you do make in a loaf mould, just be aware that your salt bar may well be ready to cut within 2 hours. If you leave it overnight and expect to be able to chop it into into bars in the morning, you will be disappointed because by the morning your loaf will probably be far too firm for you to cut it, and even if you can cut it, it will likely shatter or crumble. So we do in individual cavity moulds purely because then we don't have to worry about it getting too firm for cutting, and we have really pretty individual bars of soap that we don't need to cut, which is fantastic. I'm just going to finish filling these up now, and then we're going to place them to one side just for a few hours, and then I will come back and I will show you us turning out the soaps, and I'll show you how they've turned out. So just one final step before I put them to one side. I nearly forgot about this step, but remembered at the last minute, you want to tap down your mould so that any air bubbles in the soap are released, and it will also flatten the tops quite nicely. Salt bars, we do find, are fairly prone for us to air bubbles, so we tap down pretty firmly just to release them. There we go, now it's ready for being put to one side. So it is 24 hours later and the soaps are all now nice and firm in the mould and ready to be unmoulded. We could have unmoulded them yesterday, they were definitely ready, but we just were more interested in being lazy on the sofa than filming and unmoulding, so we left it until today. If I'd been unmoulding earlier than the 24-hour period, I would still be wearing my gloves for unmoulding, because the soap could still be caustic because the lye will not have been fully saponified. So if you are using a loaf mould or you are unmoulding from cavity moulds earlier, do make sure you still wear your gloves when handling the soap. As it has been 24 hours, I do not need to do that, so I'm just going to unmould these now. I'm going to start by loosening the edges of the mould, just by kind of pulling it out a little bit. And as you can see here, the soap is really easily coming away from the edges of the mould already. So all I need to do is just kind of pop out the individual bars, one at a time, like so. So here are the finished Rose Clay and Argan salt bars, and you can see what I mean when I said that the pink Himalayan salt just gives a really nice aesthetic look to the soap. To me, it kind of reminds me of geodes or crystals kind of glittering in the earth, and it gives a really nice kind of natural look to the soap, which I think is really pretty and I really like. So with regards to curing the salt bars, we actually cure ours for 6 weeks. And we find that that sort of longer cure time, because with our regular soaps we cure for a minimum of 4 weeks, with these we cure for a minimum of 6. And we find that that extra time just helps the bars to become that little bit extra mild and helps them to produce that really nice lather. So, if you have enjoyed our video today, please do give it a like. If you enjoy our content in general, then please do hit the subscribe button, because we will be making many more videos about many more soaps over the coming weeks, months, and potentially even years. Who knows what will happen. Do leave us a comment if you want to, and if you want to actually purchase one of our salt bars because you just don't fancy making your own and you only want to watch soap videos but you have no interest in soap making itself, then you can visit our website here and you can purchase one of these salt bars, and if you use our discount code you can also get 20% off. Thank you for watching today. Thank you for watching today. Have a lovely weekend. See you next time. Bye.